Here we have more next-generation upgrade topics to discuss, and some inspirations developers take from other games, and some Red Dead Redemption news, and the new DLC announced for Marvel's Avengers game for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So before jumping into the topics, if you are new, subscribe to the channel, click the notification icon for instant updates and follow me on Twitter for knowing more interesting and informative topics in the daily gaming world. Now let's jump in. Starting with Metro Exodus, as Metro Exodus is set to receive an enhanced version from 4A Games on PS5, PC and Xbox Series X, with upgrades taking advantage of the new hardware. It turns out that Metro Exodus is going to be getting next-generation enhancements. Developer 4A Games has released an extensive post outlining all the changes coming to Metro Exodus for the new consoles and PC. The third title in the Metro series, the game combines first-person shooting with survival elements. The team behind Metro Exodus announced this past November that enhancements would come to the entry as a free update. With the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X as selling out fast, many players can enjoy a slew of improvements. One of the first major updates is going all in on the ray tracing feature. Originally and unfortunately only available for the PC version of the game, players can now experience the new visuals on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Even with the feature on, Metro Exodus will also run at 4K and 60 frames per second on both devices. Load times will be substantially faster as well, with additional benefits for each console's controller. Specifically, latency improvements for Xbox and support for DualSense haptics on PlayStation 5. 4A Games is also planning on throwing in some extra updates like a field of view slider. PC players can also rejoice, because an improved version of the title is also coming to that platform. Metro Exodus PC Enhanced Edition offers special ray tracing benefits, and will require a compatible graphics card at minimum. This version will not be a patch, but an entirely new game free for existing owners later this spring. It provides more ray tracing details like advanced ray-traced reflections, sharper images, and smoother frame rates. With next-generation devices bringing more power to the table, it is nice to see developers following up. In the case of Metro Exodus, it sounds like the changes will be fairly substantial even though it is a free update. Some of the best PS5 games with ray tracing have a frame rate cost, but 4A Games manages to get the whole package. Plus, the team is keeping PC users in the loop by creating a new version for the platform. That said, the quality of these enhancements remains to be seen. It is possible that next-generation consoles could have poor performance if 4K with ray tracing and 60 frames per second is too demanding. 4A mentions haptic support, but such new technology has a range of quality too. In addition to ray tracing improvements, PC players will be able to check out the new iteration of NVIDIA's AI Deep Learning Super Sampling, more commonly known as DLSS. DLSS 2.0 is exclusive to GeForce RTX 20 and 30 GPUs, and could see some major performance and visual upgrades for players who use them. DLSS technology allows low-resolution visuals to be upscaled to higher resolutions without hindering frame rates. NVIDIA claims that the new version of the technology is even better, and allows for settings like ray tracing to be maximized without impacting frame rates. Exodus's support of the feature could mean significant improvements, with Fortnite and Unreal Engine 4 set to reap the benefits of it as well. The PS5 edition is going to receive support for its haptic functionality on the DualSense controller, which could mean a more immersive gaming experience for those on Sony's latest console. The Xbox Series X will also get its own exclusive benefits in the form of improved controller latency and support for spatial audio. The console releases are going to benefit from much improved loading times as well, thanks to Sony and Microsoft adopting SSD storage for their new consoles. Some additional upgrades will include the ability for players to adjust their field of vision, FOV, meaning that gamers will be able to adjust how much of the game world is seen through the first-person perspective. Perhaps one of the most exciting updates for Metro fans is that the enhanced version of the game will come at no extra cost to those who already own Exodus, which could give many players a good excuse to return to Metro Exodus later this year when the enhancements are released. Console and PC players alike will be able to benefit from this extensive, free update. 4A Games is also going to be launching Exodus on Mac and Linux, starting with Apple's App Store, Steam, and the Epic Games Store in March 2021. This is an exciting time for a lot of Metro fans with these free updates, in addition to the new multiplayer-focused Metro game that's in development. The enhanced versions of the title are expected to be launched in 2021, but there has been no official release date confirmed, other than the Mac launch of the game in March. With this big update coming, Metro fans are sure to be keeping an eye out for official release dates from 4A Games and Deep Silver. Up next we have the newly announced Marvel's Avengers next-gen upgrade and DLC, as Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix officially announced the release date for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions of Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers was originally meant to be a launch title for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Unfortunately, the next-gen version of Marvel's Avengers was delayed with no new release date in sight. However, those who want to play Marvel's Avengers on PS5 and Xbox Series X will soon be in luck, as Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix have confirmed when the co-op superhero game will be coming to next-generation consoles. As announced by Crystal Dynamics, during the latest Marvel's Avengers War Table presentation, the game will be available for next-generation consoles beginning March 18th. The next-gen version of Marvel's Avengers will feature some major upgrades when compared to the PS4 and Xbox One version of the game, with faster load times, greater graphical detail, and an improved frame rate. Better yet, anyone that already owns the game on PS4 and Xbox can upgrade to the next-gen version at no additional cost. Those playing Marvel's Avengers on PlayStation can look forward to some unique perks as well. Besides the previously announced Spider-Man DLC, Marvel's Avengers on PS5 will also have exclusive controller features. As confirmed by Crystal Dynamics, Marvel's Avengers on PS5 will take advantage of the PS5's DualSense controller and its haptic feedback capabilities. The Marvel's Avengers next-gen release date will coincide with the launch of the Hawkeye DLC, Future Imperfect. Picking up where the Kate Bishop DLC left off, the Hawkeye DLC in Marvel's Avengers will, as one might have guessed, focus primarily on Hawkeye. Crystal Dynamics released a deep dive into the Hawkeye DLC that showcases some of the gameplay that fans of Marvel's Avengers will be able to look forward to once the DLC drops on March 18th. Marvel's Avengers players will be seeing two versions of the hero Hawkeye in his DLC operation, as Crystal Dynamics has confirmed that the story will be taking inspiration from the Old Man Hawkeye run of comics. With an older version of Clint being one of the only surviving Avengers in an apocalyptic universe ruined by the Kree, players will see a younger Clint and his protege Kate Bishop working to stop this future from ever taking place, with a secondary objective of finding and saving Nick Fury. Inside the DLC, players will be accompanied by Clint's pet dog Lucky, with the operation's main villain being Maestro, a twisted version of the Hulk changed by the Kree apocalypse. Crystal Dynamics also showed off Clint's moveset, with Hawkeye's intrinsic ability allowing him to sidestep attacks and parry with an arrow. A Deadeye skill allows Clint to deal increased damage to one target, while the sword he once used as Ronin will function as the character's melee attack. 10 different arrow types allow Hawkeye's ranged gameplay to stand out as well. One thing that makes Clint Barton different from Kate Bishop in terms of gameplay is his movement, as he gets around using grapple arrows as opposed to teleportation. Boomerang arrows bounce between enemies like Captain America's shield, while implosion arrows bring enemies together. Tripwire shots function as crowd control, while rocket arrows function as upgrades to Clint's parry. Pulsar arrows build up damage over time. and Nightstorm arrows work as a barrage of arrows that rain down on enemies. Hawkeye's final abilities include recovery arrows, which allow him to heal himself and teammates. Hawkeye's ultimate ability is called the Hunter's Arrow, which works as a drone-like shot that swarms the area and deals damage to every enemy in sight. Upgrades include focused damage, explosive damage, and 2 arrow shots, with the ultimate looking like one of the most effective abilities available in the game thus far. Hawkeye will have several skins available to unlock too, including a modern and classic costume, a futuristic design, and an outfit based on Clint's alter ego Ronin. With a unique setting, a fresh character, and an interesting story, Hawkeye's DLC should be fun to play regardless of whether it fixes all the game's problems. With the next-gen versions of Marvel's Avengers confirmed to be coming on March 18th as well, players had even more of a reason to give the original Hawkeye a try. Moving forward, we have 2 inspiration stories shared by the respective individuals. The first on is the Final Fantasy VII Remake director takes inspiration from Guerrilla Games' Horizon series. As one would expect, game developers aren't just excited by the titles they're developing, they have opinions on the releases of other creators as well. Understanding this, Sony recently sat down with several developers to find out what their most anticipated games for 2021 and beyond are, along with what games inspired them to do what they do. One of these developers happened to be Naoki Hamaguchi, one of 3 co-directors for Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII Remake. In his statement on the PlayStation blog post, Hamaguchi discussed his love for Guerrilla Games' Horizon series, and how it inspired his work on Final Fantasy VII Remake. According to him, Horizon Zero Dawn left a lasting impression with its unbelievable graphics and unique take on the post-apocalyptic setting. Because of this, Hamaguchi is looking forward to Horizon Forbidden West and wants to evolve Final Fantasy VII Remake's currently untitled second part in a similar fashion. Hamaguchi didn't say which elements of Forbidden West he wants to apply to Final Fantasy VII Remake, but he's likely interested in its non-linear storytelling. In an interview with Game Informer last year, Hamaguchi said the original Final Fantasy VII didn't utilize open-ended storytelling until after Midgar's first visit. Because of this, Final Fantasy VII Remake's Part 1, which only covers the first Midgar visit, sticks to linear storytelling with a few exceptions here and there. If non-linear storytelling is what Hamaguchi is interested in, then players will likely see many more open-world elements in Final Fantasy VII Remake's Part 2 than in Part 1. Hamaguchi has more opportunities to add them now that Square Enix has gotten the first part of Midgar out of the way and opened up the rest of the world to Cloud and his team. That said, Remake's formula for open-ended features likely won't change too much, and it'll still stick to placing them at narratively suitable intervals to keep the story's tension. Conceivably, more information on both Final Fantasy VII Remake's Part 2 and Guerrilla Games' Forbidden West will arrive soon. At the moment, there's not much information available for either title. The news fans thought would come from the recent Final Fantasy VII Orchestra didn't happen, and only recently did Guerrilla shift focus to working on Forbidden West. It would certainly be interesting to hear what Hamaguchi's co-directors Tetsuya Nomura and Motomo Toriyama want to do with the title as well. The another inspiration story is from inside the game from the same studio. Capcom producer Peter Fabiano reveals that Resident Evil Village is taking heavy inspiration from the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil Village is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7, retaining that game's first-person viewpoint as well as playable hero Ethan Winters. But while Resident Evil Village may have the most in common with Resident Evil 7, it's also taking inspiration from another game in the Resident Evil series. As revealed by Capcom producer Peter Fabiano, the game is also taking inspiration from Resident Evil 4. Fabiano revealed as much in the latest issue of PlayStation Official magazine. Fabiano didn't expand on exactly what he meant by Resident Evil Village taking inspiration from Resident Evil 4, but he did say that the team is trying to create a truly authentic feel. He also teased that there will be plenty of surprises for fans of the game, and that Resident Evil Village has a balance of combat, exploration, and puzzle solving. Resident Evil 4 definitely featured all of those elements, but there are more specific RE4 inspirations found in Resident Evil Village as well. While not specified by Fabiano in the interview, fans have already seen some Resident Evil 4-inspired features in Resident Evil Village gameplay demonstrations. One of the earliest examples of this can be spotted in Resident Evil Village's inventory system. The Resident Evil Village inventory screen looks very similar to Resident Evil 4's, with players having to rotate and organize items to manage their space. Another similarity between Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4 is the merchant character. Resident Evil Village has a new merchant named the Duke, but he seems to function very similarly to the one from RE4. Players will be interacting with the Duke to sell items, make purchases, and upgrade Ethan's weapons. The Duke in Resident Evil Village seems to have a more defined personality than the mysterious merchant from Resident Evil 4, however. And of course, Resident Evil Village's rural European setting is also very reminiscent of Resident Evil 4. Both games also feature a Gothic castle that players will have to explore, so the Resident Evil 4 inspirations in Resident Evil Village are very clear. It will be interesting to see if fans notice any other similarities between the two games once Resident Evil Village launches later this year. As far as Resident Evil 4 goes, the game is playable on basically every modern video game console, but fans may eventually have a new way to experience it. Rumor has it that a full-blown Resident Evil 4 remake is in active development, with plans to release it at some point in 2022. The big Capcom ransomware leak has seemingly confirmed the game's existence, though Capcom itself has not made any official announcements. And finally, we have the Red Dead Redemption news, as Rockstar Games has released a short compilation of 5 songs from their 2018 game Red Dead Redemption 2. The EP was released in response to popular demand and is available digitally and as a limited edition vinyl record. The industry took notice when Red Dead Redemption 2 released, showcasing a beautiful open world, top-class storytelling, and an attention to detail rarely matched by contemporaries. The music from the game also received special attention, with many reviewers praising Woody Jackson's original soundtrack. Rockstar's Western epic took home 4 wins out of 8 nominations from the 2018 Game Awards, including Best Narrative, Best Performance and Best Score or Soundtrack. While the full soundtrack from the game was released in 2019, Rockstar has now released a special 5-track album titled The Music of Red Dead Redemption 2, the House Building EP. The name refers to the first track of the album, the House Building Song, a fan-favorite piece that scored one of the more memorable moments in the Red Dead franchise. David Ferguson performs himself in the title track, while NYC guitarist Mark Sweeney joins him for the rest of the album. The compilation is available digitally on iTunes, Spotify and other streaming services, as well as a gorgeous physical vinyl EP via Rockstar Warehouse and Lakeshore Records. The album will likely be in short supply, so fans should waste no time in picking it up. As suggested in the name, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a redemptive tale that sees a main character trying to literally build a new life for him and his family. In a game that largely focuses on the hard realities of the old outlaw life, the title track of this new album is contrastingly lively and hopeful. Many critics noted the contrasting tone of the song, naming it one of the more memorable and fulfilling moments during the long playthrough. The other tracks might not be as recognizable or popular as the House Building Song, but the atmospheric pieces will transport fans right back to the Western world Rockstar created. Music has always played an integral role in video games, with many past games being remembered for having unforgettable soundtracks. When done right, a game's soundtrack can really elevate the experience by helping the player lose themselves in the game world or focus during a tough battle as needed. Red Dead Redemption 2 is primarily a narrative-driven experience, and such titles live or die on the ability to pull the player in and immerse them in the game. Given the popularity of the game and its original soundtrack, it seems Rockstar hit all the right notes. And that's all for the video, guys. Please leave a like for the video and comment your thoughts and share the video, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.
Add it to the list.